My name is Henry Lorne, Financial Integrity Auditor. 46, built to catch fraud before it ruins companies. I never thought I'd use those tools on my own wife. But the morning she texted me she was leaving and moved 6 figures out of our retirement, the systems I built didn't flinch. The transfers froze, the alerts triggered, and everything she thought she stole started unraveling. She didn't know she'd just activated something bigger than betrayal. This wasn't just personal, it was federal. And all I did was watch the data tell the story.
On a Tuesday morning in March, while vetting reports from a satellite supplier in Minnesota, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my wife, Marla. "I need to do this now, Henry. I'm not happy. I've met someone. We're leaving for San Diego. Don't try to find me." Followed by a second. "Also, I moved our joint savings into my account. Just easier that way. Just easier." I blinked. The cursor on my monitor kept flashing beside a flag transaction. A minor discrepancy, nothing new. But the real anomaly had just detonated in my life. 18 years of marriage. 2 decades of shared everything. Evaporated by text. I didn't text back. I didn't rage. I didn't fall apart. I opened our financial systems dashboard. She'd moved $187,400 retirement, inheritance, bonuses into a private account at a bank I didn't recognize. Then tried to conceal the movement using a rollover shell I taught her about during our 2019 tax planning. She thought she was clever. She thought I wouldn't see it. But I built the very system she tried to outrun. And the moment she hit submit, my audit grid flagged the transaction for manual review. Auto hold initiated. Verification pending. By lunch, the funds were frozen. Marla didn't know it yet, but her new life in San Diego was starting with a $0 balance. I wish I could say it hurt, but something inside me had been bracing for this. For 6 months, she'd been working late. Weekend yoga retreats morphed into quiet time alone. Her voice had softened around sentences like, "We just don't connect the same anymore, and you're obsessed with control, Henry." But obsession with control had kept her from being bankrupted by fraudsters more than once. She just didn't realize she'd become one of them. That night, I poured a glass of whiskey and sat down in my study. All the indicators were there, I had just failed to classify them. 6 months ago, Marla started asking oddly specific questions about our retirement accounts. 1 month ago, she asked about the revocable trust. 2 weeks ago, she wanted to know how to accelerate fund dispersals in the event of death. Mine, presumably. And yesterday, I'd seen an unfiled 1040X on our shared drive. An amended return. Filed under a name I didn't know. I checked the metadata. Created by Thomas Delaney. That's the man she left with. I searched him. CPA. Former IRS compliance officer turned crypto evangelist. Disbarred in 2020 for falsifying wealth transfer documents. She'd left me for a fraud, and the irony twisted beautifully. I built a compliance protocol strong enough to ensnare a federal contractor. And now my own wife had walked straight into it. The bank's fraud department contacted me that evening. "Sir, are you aware of an attempt to transfer a 6-figure sum from your joint account?" "Yes," I said. "The system caught it. It's under internal review for regulatory reporting. We'll need your formal statement. I'll have it on your desk by morning." I didn't sleep. I didn't need to. I had clarity, not rage. I wasn't going to win her back. I wasn't going to make her pay. No. I was going to do what I did best, follow the data, trace the motive, let the system collapse under its own weight. She thought she was erasing her tracks. But I wrote the map. The next morning, Marla called. "Henry, what the hell happened? The account is, are you behind this?" "No," I said flatly. "The compliance system is." Click. I smiled. I didn't need to fight. I needed to wait. Because this wasn't just about money. It was about identity, reputation, consequence. And Marla had just tethered herself to a man whose financial record was made of sand and smoke. I didn't have to destroy her life. I just had to let her live in it. Marla didn't call back. Not that day. Not the next. That alone told me everything. The freeze worked. The money hadn't moved. But it wasn't just about dollars. Not anymore. The next anomaly surfaced on Friday. A ping in my passive scan system, a credit application attempt using our former joint address. Denied. 3 more popped up within 24 hours. All from California. All under the alias M. Delaney. She was building a new life on borrowed credit, borrowed documents, and borrowed time. The man she'd left with, Thomas Delaney, wasn't just disbarred. He was flagged by FinCEN 2 years ago for suspected laundering through shell LLCs. His game was always the same, attach to someone who had a clean history, pivot them into a financial tool, and disappear once the charges started circling. Marla thought she'd met freedom. She'd met her blueprint for implosion. I pulled up her LinkedIn. Still active. Still listed her as Brand Strategy Director, Kingswell and Company. That firm had been absorbed by Castwell Systems 18 months earlier. A quiet acquisition, meaning she still had email access to my corporate servers through the merged directory. Curious, I contacted IT through back channels. We reviewed logs. There it was, multiple pings from a California IP address last week. Attempts to access internal employee compliance dashboards. Specifically mine. I didn't react. Not outwardly. But inside me a mechanism clicked into place. If she wants to poke the system, I told IT, let's show her what it looks like when it stares back. That weekend, I visited an old friend. Diana Chu, cybersecurity lead at Meridian Risk. Diana owed me 2 favors. I only needed half of one. I gave her the metadata and IP logs. She ran them through her network filter, layered it with known Delaney-affiliated masks. 36 matches. Henry, she said slowly. He's using her to bounce packets off your infrastructure. You're not the target. Your company is. Let him keep trying, I said. I'll watch. By Monday, I had a complete profile of Marla's new financial structure. She and Delaney had opened 2 Delaware LLCs, both with slightly altered variants of her maiden name, MS Ralden Holdings and RLDN Strategic Advisors. Thinly veiled, but legally distinct. What they didn't know was that my previous consulting work for the Treasury's Counterfinancial Crimes Unit gave me access to systemic pattern recognition tools. All I needed to do was upload 2 Shell Corp tax IDs and wait. The system matched them within 18 hours to 2 flag transfer funnels. One in Nevada, one in Oregon. Delaney's known patterns. This wasn't just fraud. This was conspiracy. Tuesday night, Marla finally called. I answered, "You're tracking us." I didn't deny it. I didn't need to. Thomas says you have no right. I looked out the window at the quiet street. No lights on but mine. The coldest hour. I have no interest in either of you, I said calmly. Only in structure. And you've compromised it. You're insane. No, I replied. I'm thorough. And unfortunately for you, so is the Federal Compliance Registry. She hung up. I sat in silence for a long time. No triumph, no joy, just precision. The next day, Diana called me. We have a ping, she said. Someone tried to spoof an internal routing protocol using your name. Failed, but it was smart. Military-adjacent code language. Delaney. Almost definitely. He's testing your clearance level. I exhaled slowly. Let him. Henry. You could walk away. I'm not holding him here. I'm just not opening the door. On Thursday, I received an email from a law firm in Palo Alto. We represent Ms. Marla Ralden. We request immediate cessation of all unauthorized surveillance or tracking activities. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Diana and to Castwell's in-house counsel. Then, out of sheer curiosity, I typed a short reply. Marla is free to destroy herself. I'm simply preserving the audit trail. By week's end, my systems had traced over $400,000 in attempted transactions through Shell LLCs using my former address, 3 banks I'd previously worked with, and 4 identity data points I'd personally helped register. It was all clean, cold, legally traceable, and absolutely damning. But still, I hadn't touched her. I hadn't called the feds. I hadn't launched a complaint. I had simply built a cage made of her own actions, and she had walked inside. The man who rang my doorbell on a wet Saturday morning was 63, in a beige windbreaker, and holding a folder. He looked tired. Mr. Lorne? Yes. My name's Alan Ralden. I'm Marla's father. He didn't wait to be invited in. He stepped inside like a man dragging something behind him, shame, maybe, or memories. I didn't ask which. I heard through channels that Marla's in trouble. Is that what she told you? She hasn't told me anything. That made me pause. She's not in touch with you? Alan shook his head, eyes dry. She stopped calling after she left. I heard through Patricia, My sister, her aunt, that she ran off with some fast-talking tax guy. I warned her once about men like that. She told me I was out of touch. I said nothing. What could I say? That she was burning her own life down while trying to light mine with the same match? I came here because he opened the folder. I think she forged my signature. Twice. He laid 2 documents on my kitchen table. Power of attorney forms, dated the month before she left me. One gave her access to a trust fund Alan had set up for Marla's mother's long-term care. The second, an application for a reverse mortgage on Alan's home in Akron. I never signed these, he said softly, but her signature matches what I've seen since she was 12. I stared at the documents, not because I was shocked, but because the breadth of her collapse was spreading faster than I had thought. She's unraveling, I said. Alan nodded, and taking everyone she ever loved with her. Later that afternoon, I called Diana. We need to expand the scope, I said. You already have her entire funnel and flags. Not for me. For Alan. For his protection. She's using him now. That makes this personal. Diana didn't argue. She never did when she heard that edge in my voice. The one I didn't raise. The one that flattened. By Monday, we had a new trail. For separate attempts by Marla and Delaney to access or leverage Alan's credit through a mobile cosigner scheme, each routed through secondary financial gateways tied to the same 2 LLCs. All attempts denied. All flagged. I sent the results to Alan by certified mail. A week later, I received a handwritten note. I always believed in my daughter. I thought maybe you'd broken her. But now I see she did it herself. Thank you for showing me gently. I read that line twice. Gently. I hadn't known that's what I was doing. But maybe it was. Maybe beneath the algorithms, beneath the system triggers and legal freezes, I was still hoping anything in her would stop itself before it crashed completely. It didn't. Thursday night brought a change in tone. I received a call from Castwell Systems' internal compliance director, Marcy Wynn. We've had a visitor, she said. Let me guess. Thomas Delaney. Came to our San Jose office claiming to be representing an acquisition firm. Said he had a proposal involving restructured data audits for contract efficiency. He used your name. Claimed you'd vetted his firm. I closed my eyes. That was bolder than I expected. He's circling you, Marcy said. Circling the company. I know. He's been doing it through Marla's logins for weeks. And now he's trying it publicly. I nodded. Marcy lowered her voice. Henry, we're asking you to stay in the loop. Quietly. No whistleblowing. No official complaints. We're watching now. Let's keep this internal until it's not. I agreed. Because what Delaney didn't know was this: you don't knock on the doors of a defense-grade compliance contractor and pretend you're legitimate. You either are or you're removed. And his application packet? It had metadata. One name attached. Marla. The silence that followed was unlike any I'd ever known. Not peaceful. Not hostile. A waiting silence. Like a wire stretched between 2 towers. No weight on it yet, but coiled with tension. I used the time to build a second tracking overlay. Not just for Marla or Thomas, but for every LLC within 2 degrees of financial contact to their known entities. Within 3 days, I had 22 accounts. Within 5, 31. All shaped like clean tax structures. All wrapped in digital identity obfuscation. But none clean. Not once I scraped the roots. It wasn't just theft. It was a machine. An engine for shifting wealth, identity, and liability into smoke. They weren't starting over. They were trying to disappear. And that's when I knew what I had to do. Not stop her. Not punish her. Not even expose her. Just remove the exit. Remove the mechanism. Let her stay right where she'd put herself in a system too structured to break and too watchful to escape. So I picked up the phone. Not to call Diana. Not even to call the bank. I called a woman named Terry Kaplan. Senior Investigator, Federal Trade Compliance Unit, Cleveland Division. She picked up on the second ring. Kaplan. It's Henry Lorne, I said. Silence. Then a chuckle. I figured I'd hear from you eventually. Terry Kaplan didn't ask for small talk.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience. But we really need your support, namely a subscription to the channel, which can make it possible to hire a professional voice actor and make the best content for you.
She never had. You've got a spider, she said. I paused. A web, she clarified. The kind that stretches across multiple states, uses small funds and fake fronts to launder mid-tier theft. I've been watching a few of Delaney's former clients. And now his name lands back on my desk through you. It's not just him, I said. Never is. Within 72 hours, she had full access to my compiled network map, 31 LLCs, 22 flagged accounts, 9 shell routing points, all tied to Delaney or Marla via overlapping IP usage, digital signatures, or bank metadata. You built all this by yourself? No, I replied. I built the system that noticed it. They built it. I just looked where it told me. Terry exhaled into the phone like someone who's just confirmed a grim suspicion. All right, I'm opening the case. Quietly for now. If you get any more hits, no matter how small, send them directly to me. The first domino fell 3 days later. A payment flagged through a dummy consulting agency, New Delta Advisory, $8,700 wired in from an event firm in Baltimore. I traced the event firm. Fake. Site hosted on a free server. Domain registered 6 months earlier under the name Marlton R. Lane. Too close to Marla Ralden to be coincidence. Kaplan called me that night. We've looped in Treasury. This might move fast. Good. But Henry, she added, they might come after you personally once this opens up. You're not a ghost in this. You're the first voice. I'm fine with that. She paused, then asked quietly. Why didn't you just turn her in from the beginning? I didn't answer right away. Because I hadn't. Not truly. I didn't want revenge. I wanted proof. And now I had more than proof. I had a story written in money. A confession in transfers. A betrayal so well documented it didn't need words. The following Monday, Castwell's compliance division launched an internal inquiry. Not against me. Against Delaney's LLCs, which had been traced pinging our server infrastructure with flagged metadata headers that included portions of our employee access protocols. In short, he tried to mimic my credentials. Marcy Wynn from compliance summoned me for a closed-door conversation. He tried to impersonate you, she said. I know. We've traced the attempt to a hotel Wi-Fi network in La Jolla. Logged under Marla's name. I didn't flinch. This is going beyond civil, Henry. If this continues, we're talking federal impersonation charges. Wire fraud. Espionage, even, depending on what contracts they accessed. Let it go, I said. Let it go. Let the system finish what it started. 2 days later, Marla called. No preamble this time. No blame. Just 5 words. What are you doing, Henry? I let the question sit between us. I'm documenting, I finally said. That's all. You're going to destroy everything. No, Marla. I'm going to let it destroy itself. That night, I received an encrypted file from Kaplan. Within it, emails between Delaney and 2 associates. Planning offshore transfers. Setting up property flips under assumed names. Discussing timelines. But one detail stood out. Move the house before Lorne catches wind, Delaney had written. The house. My house. She'd never removed her name from the county deed after the marriage. That technicality gave her the illusion of co-ownership. Even though every payment had been from my account. I checked county records. A cash buyer had placed an offer under a trust name I didn't recognize. Price, $310,000. Market value, $540,000. They were trying to sell it before the heat reached them. The closing date? 2 weeks away. I could have panicked. Instead, I brewed tea, opened the property packet, and sent a single email to County Auditor's Office. Subject, Urgent Ownership Freeze Request. Attached were payment histories, wire statements, digital property tax records, all showing sole maintenance and financial responsibility by me. Within hours, I had a reply. Request approved. Flag placed on transfer pending review. Closing suspended. I didn't tell Marla. I let her find out through the realtor. Let her try to explain the unfreezing process. Let the system teach her, slowly, painfully, that she no longer lived outside the boundaries. By the weekend, Kaplan had launched a formal joint investigation with financial crimes and the FTC. Delaney's LLCs were being dissected. Several had already had accounts frozen. 2 fake firms had been blacklisted. The machine was breaking. And so was Marla's confidence. She tried again Monday morning. Can we talk? Just us. About what? You made your point. No, Marla, I said quietly. I haven't said a word. The numbers are speaking. And she knew that was worse. That night, Diana called me. We pulled something else. A voice memo from a burner Delaney used to talk to his assistant. He mentions Marla. Says she was supposed to disappear. That he'd take care of everything once the final house closed. He was planning to cut her loose. Yeah. Silence. Diana's voice softened. Henry, you could call her. Warn her. No. Another pause. She didn't call me before she left, I said. She didn't warn me when she moved our life into someone else's spreadsheet. Diana said nothing more, because she knew this wasn't about fairness anymore. It was about pattern, and Marla had set hers in motion long before this began. The final week of April began not with confrontation, but silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the vacuum left when someone realizes there's no path forward, no more calls to make, no story left to spin. Delaney's LLCs were under federal freeze. 2 of his bank accounts had been seized. One offshore proxy firm vanished entirely, scrubbed in what looked like a panic move. But too late. His blueprint had been traced in full. Marla's name showed up in 6 different compliance queries. Not as an architect, Delaney was too arrogant for that, but as a signature. As a facilitator. She had approved things she didn't understand. Or maybe she had. Either way, her hands were on the mechanism. At Castwell, the tone shifted. Internal security no longer just monitored the intrusion logs. They began compiling formal reports. Employee briefings followed, short, sterile, but heavy with subtext. The term data impersonation now appeared in legal memos. My name was no longer referenced casually in conversation. But I felt no shame. I'd built walls that held. I'd written integrity into the code. What collapsed was not my life. It was hers, feeding off mine until the system expelled it. I didn't return to the house. I had no interest in walking through empty rooms touched by premeditated exit. A lawyer handled the transfer of remaining property rights. The title now stood solely in my name. Then came the subpoena. Marla, named as a cooperating witness. Kaplan sent the file with a note. You're no longer a source. You're now an example. I was asked to provide testimony not against her, not yet, but to validate the system she had tried to game. The digital chain of logic. The protocols she never understood until they closed around her. I said yes. Not because I needed to speak, but because someone had to explain that systems don't betray people. People do. Marla's digital presence withered. Social media profiles vanished. Her email autoresponders changed tone. From busy to on sabbatical to nothing. Her LinkedIn now showed consultant. No firm. No logo. Just vagueness where confidence used to live. One afternoon, I checked the status of our old joint tax records. Her amended filings from the previous year had triggered an audit. Not because of me. Because of a $37 discrepancy in a donation claim. She had built her entire escape route through smoke and forged lines. But the system caught a fake charity write-off. That's how it always begins, not with a bang, but a line that doesn't balance. I didn't laugh. I didn't even smirk. There's no satisfaction in watching a pattern repeat itself. Just confirmation. In early May, Thomas Delaney was arrested at a private airfield outside Temecula. 1 suitcase, 1 burner phone, 3 IDs, none of them real, 1/10 of a Bitcoin on a cold wallet. He said nothing to federal agents, but the assistant he once mocked, she did. She provided emails, call logs, a contract template for every property scam they'd built, and 1 audio file. Marla's voice. Henry won't fight back. He lives in structure. That's why I left. That one stung more than anything else. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. But she had misunderstood structure. Structure isn't weakness. It isn't hesitation. It's the discipline to act only when the moment is right, and then make the entire system bend without raising your voice. She thought I wouldn't fight back. She never saw that I'd already won. A week before the federal hearing, Kaplan called again. Marla had offered to testify. She'd signed a cooperation agreement. In exchange, they'd recommend a reduced sentence if her involvement was limited to accessory-level participation. But the condition was simple. Everything she provided had to be verified. That's why they needed me again. To authenticate the trail. They sent over logs, signature samples, authorization chains. All of it bearing her name. I confirmed it. Each document. Each approval. Each mistake. Not because I wanted her locked away, but because truth deserves a witness. The hearing came and went. Delaney pleaded not guilty. Marla, under pressure, folded. Her cooperation agreement allowed partial immunity, but not for the fraud. Only for turning over the network structure. Her sentence would come later. I didn't attend the courtroom. I had no interest in watching someone I once loved in handcuffs. Instead, I sat at my desk and finalized the next version of my detection engine. One that could flag behavioral fraud before financial discrepancies even appeared. Call it over-engineering. Call it obsession. I called it insurance. Because if the system could save me once, it could save others too. By June, the house was sold. Clean title. Fair market value. I didn't keep the proceeds. Half went into a restitution fund Kaplan's team had started for other victims. One of the 12 property owners defrauded in Delaney's real estate ring had lost their retirement entirely. That money wasn't justice. It was just equilibrium. Marla was sentenced on a Monday. 12 counts reduced to 4. 2 years federal. 8 years suspended. Restitution mandatory. Travel restricted. Devices monitored. Probation for the better part of a decade. They called it lenient. I called it design. She had offered names, routes, contracts. She'd burned down the house she helped build and tried to claim heroism for holding a bucket near the flames. But the system didn't reward betrayal in fragments. Only completion. Thomas Delaney got 14 years. No early parole. His attempt to flee classified him as a flight risk. His lawyer tried to paint him as a visionary who pushed financial frontiers. Kaplan countered with spreadsheets. Data has no empathy, only structure. The day I received formal notification of case closure, I deleted the last folder, Marla Compliance Stack_Final. No backup, no archive, gone. I kept no souvenirs, no photos, no letters. The notebook I'd once found in her drawer, full of real estate plans and alternate LLCs, went into a burn bag at Castwell's Security Center. What mattered had already been preserved not as memory but as principle. I moved out of state quietly, bought a mid-century ranch in upstate New York. One story, no guests, a plot of land with silence built into the soil. It was mine, not because of the mortgage, not because of the deed, but because no one else knew it existed. I took a position as a private security advisor for small financial firms, not just auditing their structures, but teaching them how to think like a betrayer, to outmaneuver the breach before it happens. I called it preventive patterning. The students were mostly younger than I'd been when I met Marla. I didn't lecture them about love, or trust, or betrayal. I just showed them the math. A letter arrived 6 months later. Handwritten. Familiar. I've learned more in 6 months than I did in the last 10 years. Not about fraud. About damage. About how easy it is to rot something you didn't build. You didn't deserve what I did. You never tried to own me. I thought your systems were a cage. Turns out they were protection. And I walked out of them by choice. I'm sorry. There was no return address. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty. But because forgiveness is not a transaction. In year 2, I published a white paper on internal fraud detection for the Treasury. They asked me to testify before Congress. I declined. Justice had been served. What more was there to say? In year 3, I received a call from Diana. You still teaching? She asked. Only those who listen. We could use someone like you back in the circle. Not yet. Still not angry? No. There was a pause. Then why haven't you moved on? I looked out at the trees. At a life that no longer needed to be guarded. I said. I just don't need to be seen doing it. Sometimes justice isn't public. Sometimes it isn't explosive. It's a series of entries in a ledger. A pattern corrected. A name removed from an account not with a scream but with a cursor. Sometimes revenge is letting someone feel the full weight of what they tried to steal by forcing them to carry it alone. I didn't take anything from Marla. I didn't destroy her. I simply let her live in the world she built. And the system, my system, did the rest. No fire. No blood. Just truth. And truth, when properly documented, has perfect memory.
What do you think of the story? Write in the comments.